She actually left me for a while and was fighting to get her back, but she said she will only come back to me if I fulfill my promise, which was to sail around the world with her. She said, if you want to do that, if that's what it takes to get you back to my side, we'll do it. And we got all our cash together and realized, what kind of boat we could afford, and bought a boat, and off we went.
When Flo was very young, he started having this dream of sailing and being independent. And when I met him, he still got these dreams. And you know how it is when you're a couple, you start having the same dreams.
That's why I'm super happy and proud that Nina along on this journey as a family, because like she said, sailing was really tough at times and still is for Nina. But she said, well, it's not important. The whole adventure as a family and experience for the kids, it's more important than my not well-being. So I loved it how she prioritized it, and that's the only reason why we're actually here.
So I first heard about Flo Orley maybe 7 or 8 years ago as I qualified for the Freeride World Tour and I was eyeing up my competition. Flo was far from the mountains. He was down in the South Pacific on his sailboat, training by riding his standing bicycle to keep his legs in shape. Him and his partner, Nina, they gave up on their dream later that year, or rather put it on pause because of a growing family. And they decided to come back to the mountains and pick up later to sail around the world. And so here we are. This was my first episode that I recorded. It was recorded almost 12 months ago. But the Sail Away family, Flo and Nina Orley, along with their kids, Momo and Keanu, have been out on the water for a couple years now. They found a 40-foot catamaran in the Caribbean. They flew over and had a ton of work to do to it, way beyond what they originally imagined. I think they may have invested over 50,000 euros into the boat after buying it, and it was a pretty nice boat to begin with. But it's all part of the journey, right? All part of the sacrifices, and that's what this episode is all about. Flo and Nina tell us about their journey of getting onto the boat and the sacrifices that they made in order to do that. And then even when they got there, how hard it was for them to find the balance between everything, to renovate the boat, homeschool the kids, keep their sponsors happy with the content that they were meant to deliver, and pursue their dream of sailing around the world. So super excited about Sail Away family. You can check out their story on Instagram or their website, and let's dive into the show.
All right. Yeah, well, let's go. Nice to see that there's people out there who are fascinated by what you do and what we do.
Oh, absolutely. I think what I'm most fascinated about is the fact that you guys are continuing a dream that you had before you had children, and you've found a way to do it as a family now. And I think, being a father and being a part of a family now, that's perhaps the hardest part, is transitioning from an individual into a family and trying to continue your passion from before to doing it as a family. So I'm just amazed to see what you guys have done, and that's really what I want to learn about, is how you've, what this trip meant to you before and how you've been able to transition and do it as a family. So you guys, tell me about what just happened last night. You just did a crazy passage, correct?
Yes. Well, our dream is basically to keep going westwards into the Pacific, and we started in the Eastern Caribbean, following the island chain along the north coast of South America. And from Aruba, you have to go around the Cape and into Colombia. And that is one of the most dangerous passages for sailboats around the world, because northern Colombia has a huge coastal range up to almost 6,000 meters, like 20,000 feet high mountains. And they make for a local weather pattern and can throw up a very steep sea and a very gusty and strong 50, 60 knots of wind within minutes, basically. So in Aruba, we went on standby and waited for about 2 weeks for the right weather pattern. And it helps a lot that the weather forecasts are now so accurate nowadays. And we ended up having a really nice passage, actually, with the spinnaker out for 2 full nights and days. Then the wind eventually died and got really strong, but not too strong. So we made a safe passage. But yeah, you have to play the game and then sit and wait for the right conditions.
Right. And before you arrived, I mean, you've done this before, right? So you kind of have some experience sailing the high seas. It's not like this is your first time out there.
Yeah, it's not our first time. So Flo was sailing quite a lot in his life, and he did all this educations and became a captain. But the last time, it was the first time for me, this 1.5 years. And what I found out very quickly was that I get very easily seasick. And even then, I decided to do it for a second time, because for me, sailing is nothing, not a passion or anything I love to do, but it's just a way to travel and to arrive somewhere is the best thing with the boat, because you're autark, you get everything on the boat you need and want, and you got everything together. So yeah, the way of traveling is perfect, but the way itself is not so nice for me.
That's why I'm super happy and proud that Nina along and that we're on this journey as a family, because like she said, the first trip we did was from the Caribbean to the South Pacific on a small 35-foot catamaran, and as a couple only. And we loved the adventure, we loved the experience, but sailing was really tough at times and still is for Nina. But she said, well, it's not important. The whole adventure as a family and experience for the kids is more important than my not well-being while we're actually under sail. So I loved it, how she prioritized it. And that's the only reason why we're actually here.
Yeah.
Couple sacrifice. That's what it's all about when you're married, huh?
Well, yeah, that's a difficult topic coming up right here. Who sacrifices what for the happy family? Yeah.
Right. So tell us where you are right now. You've just arrived in Colombia. Paint us a picture of what's around you.
Colombia has seen some really difficult years. They've basically had a civil war going on over decades. And just a few years ago, the rivaling parties, they sat down on a table, and the whole country is opening up now. People are friendly. Cruisers, sailors like us are only starting to come to this area now, because for many, many years, it basically was off limits. It was just too dangerous. So you could not just anchor in any quiet bay here and be sure you were sailing on happily the next day. This is changing. At the moment, we're in the marina, because the first couple of days it's always nice. You clear into the country, you get to know everything. But then we plan to cruise along the coast here and also south of Santa Marta and really dig into the country, its culture, and meet the people.
That's amazing. And you're both from Austria, right? I find it's really interesting that you're mountain folk. So maybe the land that you grew up around in is mountainous. You're in the Tyrol Valley, beautiful area of the world, but now you're out at sea, which is a complete difference from what you grew up and what you knew. Why do you think you were drawn to the sea? Is it something about growing up in the Tyrol where you needed to break out and be out in the open expanse, or is it something different?
Wow, that's a good question. I think when Flo was very young, he started to having this dream of sailing and being independent, and he read a lot of books about it, and he was very interested in those adventures. And when I met him almost 20 years ago, he still got these dreams. And you know how it is when you're a couple, you start having the same dreams, because one got a big passion and the other one got the passion too. So we were always talking about it and tried to, it was a lot of work in our brain, how we can do that, how we can afford it, and so on. And so about 9 years ago, we did it for the first time, because we talked about it so much that we had to do it. Because once you got a dream or something you want to do, you end up doing it because you really want to do it. So
tell me about that, though. I mean, a lot of people have dreams, but I think a lot of people have a dream of sailing around the world, but to actually do it is really hard. And tell me about the sacrifices you had to make in the first time. Flo, you were a pro snowboarder, and Nina, I think you were working in the sports field as well. Tell me about what it was like to leave everything that you knew to go sail halfway around the world. I'm sure it was exciting, but also incredibly challenging.
Well, it was one side story Nina did not mention. That was she actually left me for a while, so we had a big break in our relationship, and I was fighting to get her back. And after a year or so, I got close to the point to get her back, but she said she will only come back to me if I fulfill my promise, which was to sail around the world with her. And it was a big step for me at that time, because I was really successful as a pro snowboarder, and sacrificing, leaving the scene, potentially meant that this dream job I had was over. But I prioritized. I said, no, if you want to do that, if that's what it takes to get you back to my side, we'll do it. And I quit my job. I stepped out of the Freeride World Tour, and we got all our cash together and realized, what kind of boat we could afford, and bought a boat, and off we went. That's how it worked. I think everyone's dreaming of something, but it's a matter of how strong a dream is. If you're willing to prioritize, if you're willing to sacrifice a lot of things for that dream, and once you may answer yourself these questions, am I willing to do this? Am I willing to sacrifice other things? Then a lot of doors open and you're on your way.
Yeah, and I think when you're together or two people, then you're a bit stronger, because if I should do it on my own, I could have never done it, because I'm too much afraid of something or anything. And with the help of Flo and his, I trust him, and I know he can sail, he can do it, and he, like in snowboarding, he's kind of a risk manager, everybody says, or he says himself, and that's true. And so I can trust him, and I know I will be all right, and my kids too, and so then you can do it.
And I think myself, I would never have done it without the woman I loved on my side, because whom do you share all those wonderful experiences with when you're on such a project? We meet quite a few sailors who are by themselves, but to me, bottom line, these are quite sad beings, because they go around to see the most beautiful places, the most beautiful experiences, but they're not able to share it with anyone.
Right. I love that. I love the idea of being stronger together and sharing that. I think you described that very well. And I am looking at my own relationship as we're ripping through the house and preparing to move in, and the turmoil that surrounds us. And I know that the sunny skies are on the other side, and I can feel the strength happening around us, but I often wonder, man, is this a good idea or a bad idea? Did you feel that along the way? Do you feel like preparing for something like this is a lot more high stress and can cause more turbulation with your relationship, or does it truly pull you both together by planning something like this and actually doing it?
One thing is answered very simple. A lot of people asking us the question, well, how can you be on such a small area on a boat together as a couple, referring to our first trip? And we always answer, well, it's simple. In a year and a half, we didn't have a single fight.
Yeah, but by this time we didn't have kids. And I think to prepare this journey is without kids, it's so much more fun and so much more passion and love inside, because you got time and you can sit together and your nerves are still strong. But once you got kids and you don't have time for, hours of talking about this journey, everything happens just within 5 minutes while I biting my bread, and Flo has to go to the toilet and the kid is screaming because it fell down or whatever. So to prepare a journey like this is nice without kids, and with kids it's like a job sometimes.
Once Nina got pregnant on a first trip, it was actually in the middle of the South Pacific. I think it was Bora Bora where we finally did the pregnancy test. We started to look at those other sailing families differently, right? We watched those families with kids on board, and we said, wow, this was a nice trip. It's going to come to an end because Nina wanted to give birth to a baby at home. But we said, hey, let's come back as soon as the kids are old enough and continue this dream journey. But we kind of did not think that traveling with the kids, especially in such circumstances on a sailboat that needs constant maintenance and work and planning and everything, is so, what's the English word for it? Is so tough. It's so energy consuming.
Yeah.
As we're speaking, they're running up from the dock. And
Beautiful. And tell us about your kids. You've got two, a son and a daughter, Keanu and Momo. Is that right? Do they want to say hi?
Seems a new boat just arrived with some German-speaking kids, which is always super exciting because we're still struggling with convincing them that they need to speak proper English and able to have more fun meeting all the kids around the world.
Wow, that's amazing. What an education. And I have so many questions that I feel like we're flying through, but that's definitely a topic that I want to know. Nina, you're taking the helm on educating these two, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in a homeschool type manner, what does that look like?
I prepared a little bit just to, Keanu went to school for 3 months at home in Austria. And after that, we took him out of his class and we started our journey. And while Keanu was at school, I taught Momo the same stuff at home. So she's 1.5 years younger than Keanu, but now she got the same level. And I tried to do the homeschooling, and I took all the books from Austria, and I teach them every day for about 1.5 or 2 hours. And it's not happening that it really takes place every day because the kids are not in a good mood, or sometimes we are sailing and just simply I can't teach. And at the moment we end up at about 3 times a week for 1.5 or 2 hours. And I feel it's all right. I mean, they can after 1 year, they can read, they can write, they can count. And so it's basically the same stuff what they're doing at home.
That's great. And how old are they?
Kiana is 7 and Momo will turn 6 in a few weeks.
Great.
Yeah. No, it's nice, but it's tough. It takes, you just have to do it, and you have to sit down every day, and you have to force them, and you try to find a way that they like it a little bit. But for sure, they would love to do other things than sitting there and learning how to spell or whatever. But they got the best classroom in the world. They're sitting on a boat, and the wind is blowing, and the dolphins are sometimes jumping next to them. So it's cool, but it's work, and you have to do it, and you have to force them, and you have to show them that it's important, that they are not allowed to do always what they want to do, because that's life. And I'm happy to do it, because I got so much control over my kids, and I'm so happy to show them everything I know. But on the other hand, for sure, sometimes it would be easier to have somebody else telling them things, because you can lay back and relax. But on the other hand, yeah, who's got the possibility to teach their own kids? I mean, it's cool.
Yeah, we've been following a lot of families over Instagram, and that's what the Moment Exchange is really all about, is connecting families around the world that are living these alternative lifestyles, are homeschooling, road schooling, unschooling, whatever you call it. It is work and it is hard, but the application for your kids is real. You can point out letters and numbers, and then when you're filling the diesel tank or you're walking through the streets of Colombia, they can apply that knowledge. Do you feel like that's happening around you? Have you seen that happen on the trip?
But what we always found amazing on a first trip without kids is that those boat kids, they're, on one hand, they're really grown up very fast, because they're among a lot of adults at the time. And at the same time, they don't have any, there's no society that teaches them anything really, right? So they stay childish at the same time. I remember discussing with a 11-year-old the difference between the European and the American social security system. And half an hour later, he was jumping around naked with the younger kids on the beach building sandcastles. And it's so typical for me how both kids are, Yeah, society does not tell them what to do. They don't come home and say, oh, well, my classmate's got a phone now. I want an iPhone too at 8 years old. They just are the way they are. And then all that freedom we believe that they have is going to turn them into really mature characters and personalities when they grow up.
Yeah, and they have to take more responsibility than at home, because they have to help us. Keanu tries to sail and tries to steer, and that's a lot of responsibility to take over the boat. And it's just, everything is about life, and to solve everyday life, like eating, drinking. We have to save energy with the help of the sun, and we have to make our own water, so we have to save everything, and to make them aware of nothing is for free, and nothing is just easy to have. That's something I like very much.
And they grew up in touch with nature so much. Kiana, with 7.5 years now, goes spearfishing with me at night, but it's not me carrying the spear gun, it's him. I just follow up. We both have a lamp, and we agree on which fish to go for. And I tell him, well, today we go for snappers, or we go for rainbow fish, and he shoots them at 7 years old. And that's the life we live.
Wow. And tell me about that. Are you snorkeling right off the boat, or are you going in from shore?
Well, 95% of the time we are on anchor. It does not happen that often that we're in the marina as we are right now. Sometimes you need to, you got to kind of refurbish and stock up on spare parts, have major repairs. But 95% of the time we are on anchor. And of course, you need a protected anchorage, but at the same time, you always try to anchor at places that are close to waves where we can surf, which are close to good snorkeling or diving spots. And if not, we have our dinghy, with a little 15 horsepower engine. And so that has a range of a couple of miles easily if the weather is flawed. So that's what we use to go to the waves or to the snorkeling spots, and then just move back and forth with it.
Wow. So that's amazing. But back to what we were just talking about, you mentioned that doing all this together as a family, your kids are learning, what real life is like. Do you feel like your bond as a family is stronger now that you've been on the trip together versus your life at home?
Yeah, definitely. We are together 24/7. There's no way, we are always together. So we even though sometimes somebody's grumpy or sad or whatever, somebody of the other family members has to take over and to try to find a way to get to this person. Doesn't matter if it's Flo or me or one of the kids. And the other thing is that Flo is always around, even though he has to work and he has to fix stuff, but he's there. So for sure you bound more than at home, because at home there are so many other people like grandparents or friends or other family, and they take over sometimes a little bit, influence the kids. But here it's just the four of us mostly, and that's the reason why you stick together more. And but that's something I love so much, because the way you bound with the kids, you are always there, and you always have to help, and there is no influence from outside, which I like very much.
I mean, they're young; they're 5 and 7 years old, right? I mean, once they're teenagers, we will probably have to stop this journey, because then they need their own route. They need to meet people of their age, discover the other gender. And we're not don't want to restrict the life then at all. But now, as they're so young and they're easily motivated for anything, this is just amazing how, as a team, you can be on a journey.
Yeah, and that's what we found out. The best age for kids is between 6 and 10, because then they're kind of a little bit mature at the age of 6, and till the age of 10 they are child enough to love everything what we do. But then maybe they get a little bit, they like friends, they like their own hobbies, and maybe they need more time on their own. So we decided this age is perfect, and then we will see.
And looking at families we're meeting now, I think we did right, because there are families who only start when their kids are 10, 11. There's a German family here right now, and their 11-year-old daughter told them after a year, hey, this is it. I don't want to be in this boat any longer. I want to go back to my friends, to my girls, and hang out with them. It's kind of fun here, but I don't want to. So they have to stop their journey, and they're on their way back to Germany now.
Wow.
And that's it's not the only family we met. When we started looking at boats, I actually looked at a boat up in North Carolina, south of New York, that was on the market, because the kids told their daddy when they were cruising after a year, hey, that's it, we just want to stop it. But they were all as well, but just on the brink of becoming teenagers. And I think that's where it's the wrong time for children to be on a boat. Then you have to provide them with a frame, like a safety frame, and a stable home, and then they can venture out and explore and develop their character and personality. But that's not a time where they want to travel. That you got to respect that.
Wow. Everybody says as we prepare for our own journey that now is the time before they go to school and this and that. But the fact that you just reiterated that, and families are abandoning their maybe life plans of sailing around the world because their teenagers are making themselves known, their opinions known in the family, that's real. And what a gift that you have decided to give your kids and yourselves to strengthen that bond at this time while your kids are in that sweet spot.
But you also got to think that we are talking about a sailing cruise, right? If you're venturing out on a big camper van or something like, and you're traveling overland, it might be a bit different, because every time you stop, you potentially have a lot more people around you. Whereas we are an anchor in some remote base. The beauty of nature and the bond of the family is amazing, but maybe not the social surroundings. If you're on the way on four wheels, it might be very different. It might be more easy for the kids to connect. They don't need to jump on a stand-up paddleboard or a dinghy to see someone else. They can just walk out the door, and other kids might be right there. So we can only speak for sailors. We cannot speak for people traveling overland.
Right. Nina, you said something earlier about Flo that I thought was interesting, because Flo, you and I met on the Freeride World Tour, and I remember seeing, I think the first year I was on tour, you were just coming back from the South Pacific. You had been down there. And Nina, you said that Flo is kind of like the risk manager. Flo, I'm wondering, has your experience as a pro rider and your relationship with risk, climbing mountains, taking risk as your job, do you think that's helped you to become a boat captain for your family?
I think it did help me to have been dealing with risks pretty much all my life, going onto a boat. But on the other hand, I do not think it is necessary to be a real risk manager when you become a sailor, because I mean, the risks are obvious. It's weather, it's reefs, it's breakdowns on the boat, and even when you just get into sailing a little bit, these things are very clear to see. right? You don't want to leave in harbor when the weather is bad. You want an engine that works, and you don't want to run into a reef and have a hole in the boat. And these things you have to take care of. Maybe I'm pushing it a little further, a little harder, because I'm playing with risks also, and I still do this on the boat. But you don't need to be an expert in reef management to be a good captain and with the family on board.
I could imagine, though, when I saw your Instagram post just last week, and you said we're leaving at midnight to sail from Aruba to Colombia on one of the top, 5 most dangerous passages in the world. You're leaving at midnight in waters maybe you've never sailed before, and you have your family on board and nothing but your wits to protect you and guide you. And then also you mentioned spearfishing at night. Just things like that where I've swum my boat in, or I've had to swim in from anchor at night in the Atlantic Ocean, a couple hundred yards, and it can be terrifying jumping into the black ocean at night.
Yeah, well, obviously.
It's better you answer, because what I can say to that, I never have to do strange situations. Flo is always the one who has to jump into the water when the line for fishing is stuck up in wheel or propeller, for example, and the ocean is about 4,000 meters deep, because I would be scared, and so Flo always has to fix all these not so nice situations.
But if the risk management I'm using in the boat comes down to pretty much one sentence: avoid worst case scenarios. So what I'm doing, I'm drawing pictures of worst case scenarios in my head, which is, okay, we're hitting a reef, someone's going overboard, we're on a reef far out, night spear fishing, and then the dinghy engine doesn't start. And then you got to ask yourself, okay, if this worst case happening, what then? And if you can answer the question, what then, in a way that you think, okay, no one's going to die, everyone's going to be fine eventually, then you can just go for it. There's so many life and death situations in everyday's life of the people that you don't even realize. You're on the highway, you're going 60, 70 miles an hour, events come up. Well, if you don't turn the wheel, you go straight into the side of the road and potentially die. So that's your worst case scenario. You must turn that wheel. And it's the same on the boat. So it's more like a list in your head that you tick, and then you do the right thing. Coming back to your examples, leaving Aruba in the middle of the night. Well, we moved the boat on the day before leaving to an anchorage that has no reef on the leeward side. So we could just pull up the anchor and go straight out. Then we waited for 2 weeks for the right weather. We had the charts for Colombia on 3 different computers. So if one would have an electronic failure, we could switch on the other one. So we would have a chart of the area that we would arrive on. Then we have a satellite phone on board. So if I feel like the weather is deteriorating, I can call friends at home, and within 20 minutes, they will give me an update on the weather and call me back on that very phone, and we can react accordingly. So it's all those worst case scenarios that lead to potential backups and let you sleep well, because whatever's going to happen, you have a solution for it.
Yeah, I think that's critical, and I think that's why I was curious about your experience as an extreme snowboarder, Flo. I feel like we always made contingency plans. I remember planning lines with you in the tour, and it's like, well, if I don't land this cliff in this way, I'm going to exit like this. Or if I can't find my line, I'm going to have this backup plan that's going to take me to safety. Or if an avalanche comes, I can cut out this way. And I think, I was really curious about my relationship to risk as I became a father, and I felt myself kind of almost lose my edge a little bit on tour because I wasn't as willing to take the kind of risk that I used to. But I also found that there was a little bit of superpower there, being a dad or a mom, not that I'm a mom, but being a parent, that now you can calculate risk in a little bit of a different way. And it's more calculated. You have 3 maps instead of just 2, and you have a sat phone instead of just a cell phone. And, you just think things through a little bit more, but you can still do them. They're just what I call don't fuck up scenarios.
Yeah, you're totally right. One comment though on the World Tour, looking back now at the time when I was still a pro rider and competing on the tour for the world title, I also thought when the kids were there, wow, this is awesome. I'm getting up at 5 a.m. in the morning and cooking up some fruits and making a gravy for my kids, feed them, and then get up into my protection gear and helmet up the mountain to compete on the World Tour. I just have to look at the results, and I know it didn't really work out. I used to be top 3 almost all the time. And then the first 3 years when the kids were there, I was barely re-qualifying for the tour. And as soon as the kids were a little older and we could get our nights back sleeping, I was back in the top spots. So there might be some superpower that you feel, but I think bottom line, your energy is not as focused on what you were doing before when the kids are there. So it's a lot of reframing it that has to happen when you have kids.
And do you think that helped you to take this jump to do this mission, knowing that maybe things in your professional life, things that were happening around you before you left, were not as much of a priority as your family? Did that propel you to leave? At least, for me, it feels like while the kids are young and it's hard to focus on career, on things external from the family, it almost makes more sense to take this time and do a journey like this if you have the capacity. Did you find the same thing?
Yeah, sure. The first years with a kid is most important. So maybe not the first 1 or 2 years, but then, it's so sad when I was at home and Keanu was a baby, for example. It was all right because Keanu was was drinking, sleeping, and for sure he started to walk and everything. But when they get a little bit older and their dad is not there, it's very sad as a mom because you celebrate all those nice days like birthday or Christmas or Easter alone. And you think, hey, that's not, we are a family and we should celebrate everything together. And he's just not capable to do it because he has to work or to do anything else. So when the kids are about 3-4 years old, I think it's so important that you find a lot of time with the kids, because when they're 10 or when they when they go to school, they got more input from outside. But from 3, 4 till 10, I think it's the best time for dads and moms to connect with their kids.
And I remember a conversation shortly before we left when we agreed that if it hadn't been for this journey, I would have had to change my job because there's just too much traveling involved, too many weekends involved, too much not being there for a family event, and it would have, potentially killed a family relationship.
It was so sad. I remember the day when Keanu was competing at his first skiing race, and he was super cute and it was super stylish, and he won, and Flo was not there. And that's something, he has to be there because that's something he has to see too, not just me. Flo has to compete himself or his own and whatever, but he misses all these situations, and I think that's sad for everybody. So don't work too much.
Which is hard when you're trying to put as much money aside as you can to save up for a big trip or a big dream.
Yeah. So, I mean, how does it work financially for you guys? I mean, doing a trip like this isn't cheap. So how'd you make it work? How are you making it work from the road?
Well, I think the first lesson one should learn is if you have a big dream, it's easy to make big sacrifices. And for us, it was very logical over the past years to spend as little money as we could. That would mean not eating out much with the family, not driving a fancy car, but rather go for a used car. When we went out for a pizza, we had one big margarita all together and glasses of water. So that would go for like $10. But if you would have 4 pizzas and drinks for everyone, it'd probably be $50. And that's how we saved a lot of money. And we managed to buy an apartment, which we're now renting out in Innsbruck, my home city, which is a major part of our income. And I was also able to convince 2 of my sponsors from my previous life as a pro rider to be a partner of this trip because they're using the lifestyle that we live to promote their product, which is nice. And that's how it works for us.
Great.
Yeah, and the journey itself, I mean, there's a lot of money inside the boat just by buying it and trying to maintain it all the time. And the other big amount of money flows into insurance for the boat and for us. But everything else is way less than at home because we can't buy things. And the only things we need is food. And we wear almost nothing. We got our fins, we got our surfboards, we got all the medication already. And I can't go to the gym. I can't go to the cinema. I can't go to the hairdresser, and I can't go to the whatever. So all those institutions who want money from you don't exist here. So we can't spend money. I cook and it's cheap. The life itself is very cheap.
Yeah, I think that's something that I feel like has to be experienced to be understood. a lot of people expect that life on the road is expensive. Like, how do you do that? How do you live in a van? But I mean, as soon as you shed the layers of, as you call them, the institutions that want your money, life is cheap.
Exactly.
And how does that feel to be almost? Do you feel like you're separate from society or separate from the life that you live? What's that feel like?
You get very sensitive for everything when you are alone or when you are away from the typical society. So you see and feel more, and you don't want anything anymore, because you always ask, is it, do I need this? No. Do I need this? No. So I remember the last time when we came home after 1.5 years sailing, and I was pregnant, and we came home at Christmas. We were so overwhelmed by all this. Nobody needs anything, but everybody wants to have everything, that it took a couple of months for us to get into society again. And especially, for a woman, it's maybe different as for a man, because I don't want to be a ugly, not nicely dressed girl or whatever. So for me, there was a time when I needed some new pair of jeans or whatever. But still, there was this: do I need these shoes? No. Do I need this? No. Do I need this? No. Because once you found out that you don't need anything, you're more sensitive. And, I got a lot of friends, they got about 70 pairs of shoes in their cupboard. And I really, it's disgusting for me, because I think I don't need it, because I need some nice shoes. I need some for climbing. I need, that's it. Don't take more than you need. That's something I really found out on all those journeys.
So that what makes you really separate once you've been on the road for a while, that the capitalistic part of yourself pretty much dissolves. And as far as communication goes, it's down to your personality. I hardly speak with anyone back home. I just drop my parents a WhatsApp every 2 weeks so they know what's happening. But Nina communicates a lot with friends from back home. She's on Skype or on WhatsApp with them. She's texting with them. So she's really still part of the social life in Austria, thanks to modern communication tools. And that's something that's also different from our first trip, because it was almost 10 years ago. There was no WhatsApp, and there was not much internet on the remote islands in the South Pacific. And that has changed too, and it also changes the life on the road a lot.
Right. And how do you manage that? Because it's this balance of wanting to be in the experience yourself and taking it all in, but also sharing it as a sail away family, and letting people know what you're up to and be inspired by the life that you live. How do you strike that balance?
Well, it's quite easy. We were really motivated to run a blog and post on Instagram, and we felt it's my job, because this is what I had been doing as a pro snowboarder for almost 2 decades. And Nina asked me after the first month or the first 2 months, "Are you actually doing any social media work? Are you posting anything? Are you making videos?" And I was like, "No, sorry, I got no time. I'm fixing up the boat." So she took over, and I'm very happy she did, because she's doing it really well now. She's put much more emotion into it. And, she wants to tell people out there more than I want to how we live and what we do. I feel more like I'm here by myself with my family, and I don't need anyone. And she feels more like she wants to share and tell people what we experience.
Yeah, and there's so much coming back from a lot of people I did not know very well before we left, for example, or birthday or anything. I was, I was into tears, because so many people are writing and living the dream with us. And that's what I love so much, to show them just a little bit of what we're doing. And I also try to be honest, because, for sure, the pictures on Instagram or Facebook, it's just one moment in a couple of days, and this moment is nice, but all the other moments may not be nice, because a kid was sad or sick, or I'm homesick and sad, or I got some bad news from home or whatever, and it's tough work on this boat. Every day we get up and we work till we fall in our beds, and I try to communicate this to the people as well, to tell them, hey, it's not holiday, it's work. I get up in the morning, we have breakfast, but we don't have any nice things like a dishwasher, or we just have a small fridge, and prepare everything. So after that, it's cool. I have to teach the kids, and then I have to clean up. I have to do the dishes. You prepare lunch, and after that, it's hot. You're sweating. You have to clean. Flo has to fix, and we work the whole day. And for sure, I show more the nice pictures on Instagram, but I also try to show the people that it's tough,
And It is, of course, we're trying to inspire people to potentially do similar things, but it actually inspires us a lot when people are writing to us on Instagram or on Facebook, be it friends or people we have hardly ever met, and telling us how we inspire them, to their potential journey. That really gives us a lot of energy.
Yeah. But speaking from experience, you've inspired me to put the energy that I know I needed to into doing this trip for ourselves. So thank you for doing this. It's working. It's working.
That's nice to hear, Colin.
Something I love to tell people too, there is nothing more important than family, because that's the only thing you will have your whole life. When you are old and sitting in your wheelchair, for example, your kids will be around because you gave everything to them you could, and you will get everything back. And family, don't care about money too much. And when all the women go to work very quickly and kids are still babies, that's not good for me, because I think, once you decided to be a family, you have to put all your effort and all your love inside this. And that's something, that will carry you all your way till you're old, until you die. Because when you are old and all your family is around, kids and grandchildren, then you're happy. Everything else will go away again.
And I think it really matters if you travel over land or on a sailboat or whatever you do, but just getting out of the daily routine of a Western society 9-to-5 life with kids in school and dads and moms at work from the morning, and then meeting only in the evening and have 1 or 2 days of the weekend. Getting away from that is the best you can do when the kids are at a young age.
Yeah,
I love it. What advice would you have to another family listening that has in the back of their mind that they want to sail around the world? What would you tell them?
Okay, we try to make it one sentence. I think talk a lot about your dreams and define a goal. Define something that you want to do together, which could be just, a bigger time out. Get all the vacation time you get together for a 3-month trip, or find out if you're ready for something longer, to leave the life you live for half a year, for a year, or even more, and just find out what yourself and what the other one thinks in the deepest corners of his or her heart and mind. Find out what you want, and then find a way to make it work. I think that's, if you manage to put your dream into a few words. We want to buy a sailboat and go around the world, or we want to sell our apartment, get a camper van, and live in it for maybe a year. But just put it down in words, and then talk to your friends about it, to your family, get some feedback. Don't let them push you back, but even negative feedback, it's a lot of help, because it shows some fears or some points of the story that you maybe have not thought about. And then once you've defined a goal, you're on the way. Just make it happen.
And for me, it was always very important to have this security line that, for example, we did not have to sell our apartment. We just rented out. So just in case of anything, not happy or illness or run out of money, then we can go back every time. And this is something that makes me very happy to know that, we are not lost.
And this is again where family comes into play. So let's say you're renting out your apartment, but your ship sinks, your camper van crashes or whatever, and you feel like you have to go home. Well, if you have parents or grandparents that have a spare room or 2 spare rooms in a house, apartment, can make a big difference, because then you have a place to go back to and restart in case of emergency.
That's great. Thank you so much. I'm truly inspired. I'm so happy to have you as my first guest on the Moment Exchange podcast from the road.
We feel super honored to be the first one.
Where can people find you online if they want to follow your journey?
Well, we are the Sail Away family. We wanted to be a sailing family, but that was already taken by now. So we had the Sail Away family. This is our homepage, sailawayfamily.com, and Facebook, Instagram, it's equally Sail Away Family. Definitely answering every single personal message we get on Instagram, iMessage, or through our website.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm so inspired. I'm so happy for you. It seems like you're really doing it. So hopefully you don't leave South America too soon and we'll run into you down there.
Yeah, there's a good chance. But be aware, usually you're moving at half the speed that you think that you planned ahead.
Great advice. Yeah, people are saying, so how long is this going to take? And I'm like, I'm planning on 2 to 3 years, and then I'm just lining it up before we even cross the border. I'm like, we're not even going to cross the border for a year based on,
Yeah, well, you can always, skip some countries or some areas and just sail, or in your case, drive for 5,000 miles and then continue there if you feel like you have to. So, it's all teamwork. What works out for the two of you will work
And
out
it doesn't really matter how far you get, as long as you go.
Exactly.
I love it.
No, Colin, I got to jump outside, close like 17 windows. I think we have a big rain.
Okay. Ciao, guys.
Hey, thanks a lot. I hope to see you.
Yes. Sounds great. Ciao, Nina. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
I just love hearing stories like this of a couple from Austria growing up nowhere near the ocean to taking their family on board for a couple years and sailing halfway around the world. It's truly incredible. So just an update from Sail Away family. They have decided to put their journey on pause and travel back to Austria for family reasons. So they've been off the boat since last September, and this episode was recorded about a year before that in the midst of their travel. It was an unexpected return, and they regrettably sold the boat and gave up on it, but they'll be back. And I know that these guys have adventure in their hearts, no matter if they're living in Innsbruck or on a boat in the Caribbean. So stay up to date with these guys on Instagram or on their website at Sail Away Family. And we hope to have you back next week for episode 2 of our water season. We'll be featuring the Holcomb family, or Famagogo, who have been traveling for the past 4 or 5 years, and their daughter is part of the Junior Olympic whitewater paddling team. So really excited to share what they're up to. Rewilding Parenthood was produced by Afuera Vida, sound and editing by Mercedes Riva, and music by Thomas Tyrell. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you'd like to support us, please consider leaving us a review, sharing with a friend, or posting this somewhere where other people can see it. So hope to have you back next week. Adios.